Hi there. It's always really hard to start these things because I can't see anyone. But I was going to say good morning, but it's not morning any longer. Not here in Northern Ireland anyhow. It's 12:03. So I suppose welcome to the session that I'm going to deliver on the graduate school and give you a little bit of a taster on the postgraduate as a leader experience. Now, I have my colleague with me, Cara, and Cara will introduce herself in a second or two. But just to sort of let you know who I am one of the postgraduate training and development consultants based in the graduate school on campus here in Queen's. And my role primarily is to deliver all the leadership and self-development and sort of resilience training that we provide as an additional support to you guys doing your degree here in Queen's. And what we wanted to do with this session is just give you a little taster on leadership and what that looks like, and get you really thinking about yourself as a leader in not only your graduate role, but also, for yourself and where you want to go in terms of your career and job and so on. So in my previous sort of life, I would have been a leadership and management consultant, and have worked primarily in healthcare, supporting lots of different teams to build their leadership and team effectiveness. So I bring a lot of my experience to the training that we deliver here in the graduate school. So I'm going to hand over to Cara, who is the graduate school manager, just for her to introduce herself and tell you a little bit about what we do in the graduate school to support you and your journey through your postgrad studies.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Caroline. And it's lovely to, I guess I can't see you today. I realize how much of our language we use is around seeing people, but lovely to be with you and start to connect with you as potential, maybe incoming postgraduate students at Queen's. As Caroline said, my role is the manager of the beautiful building you see in the slide picture. What does that mean? That's a really good question. We spend a lot of time wandering around the building with a cup of coffee in my hand. What I see it as is I am there to try to create the environment and the circumstances that make postgraduate study effective and meaningful, and a really great opportunity for all of our students. So sometimes that's working with your schools on the way that we're working together to deliver opportunities for you relating to your skills development, your employment, and whatever happens during and after your studies. And sometimes that's about bringing in other partners from outside of the university and looking at how we can create different opportunities, and always giving my team an environment where they can innovate and meet your needs as best we can. I see that we have people from everywhere, from Nuri to Dubai with us. That is absolutely fantastic. Do pop into the chat line, just a hello from wherever you are in the world. We love to see the diversity of our students coming together, and that really is a fundamental point of the graduate school. It is a place to bring people together, people from across a range of experiences in life, a range of different countries, a range of different points in their career, points in their life. And it's really exciting when you see a room full of people who maybe wouldn't have any reason to come together in any other circumstances, creating, innovating, and building new things together. And the leadership really, that's where it flourishes. That's where the opportunities arise, the diversity, the inclusion. It's great to see that all happening in the graduate school. This beautiful building was reopened for a study space to postgraduates this week. And so that's been an interesting experience. And we can see then how meaningful it is to our postgraduate students as a physical statement. But of course, the COVID-19 situation showed us all that it has to be much more than a beautiful building that we're offering to you. Looking at all these places people are coming from. Dundonald, fantastic, Chloe, not too far from where I am. Birmingham in England, Maryland in the United States, India, Russia. This is fantastic. Thank you all for joining us today. This is really great. So what we have to do that's more than a beautiful building, first of all, it's about the community of postgraduates coming together. So it's a place where either virtually or in real life, you are meeting with other students, connecting with their experience and skills and bringing that together to create exciting things, where you're exchanging ideas with people from different backgrounds, different disciplines, different skill sets, and where we're celebrating the successes of each member of our community, whether that's staff members or students. And we hope it's also a place where you're learning about yourself. So you're developing your strengths and your passions, maybe identifying weaknesses or areas that need further development, and hopefully trying something new and putting yourself into an opportunity that you may not have thought about before, that maybe feels a bit uncomfortable, that maybe challenges you to be learning in a new way or to be undertaking a new activity. And that's where we think real growth happens and where you find new opportunities and new ways of doing things. And relating to that, we have 5 pillars that we say we would like all of our graduates to emerge from postgraduate study at Queen's as thinkers, innovators, leaders, and communicators who are future ready. And some of those may appeal to you now, and you might go, I really feel I am a leader, identify with that, or I really feel that I am a good communicator and that's a strength I have. Or they might be things that you're looking at going, oh, that's something I would really like to explore and work on throughout my time at Queen's. And we hope to be there to help you do that. And that we have a roadmap that is the basis for your development, and our consultants like Caroline will help you to identify and explore how you can make that happen during your time at Queen's. So that's really what I wanted to say today. I really hope we do get to meet at some point, either virtually and these online engagements or in person, either way. We look forward to welcoming you to Queen's, and I'll hand back to Caroline.
Okay, and I'm just seeing a question there for, is it Krishna? All our training, sort of you as a PhD student, you can avail of a lot of the training programs that the leadership in particular that I'm going to sort of give you a little taster of. We have more bespoke training opportunities that are tailored just to, sort of that researcher need. But we also have that blend that we just think is very unique about the graduate school, is that we actually, really think that there's value in bringing both PGT, PGR students from a whole range of disciplines. And we would refer to it often as transdisciplinary. So not only are you coming from a particular sector, particular experience, you may be studying in a particular different way, right across all the different discipline areas. And we actually believe that there is learning in all of that, in terms of the skills that you can learn about yourself, but also that you can actually learn from others. So whenever we get to my last slide, I'll sort of give you a sample of some of the training that will support you on your research journey. And Cara's going to keep an eye on some of the chat and the questions. So if I don't pick them up verbally, hopefully she'll be able to maybe respond in the chat. So we'll encourage you to do all of that, so that we try and answer as many questions as we can. But just to kind of give you a little taster of why leadership, and obviously the sorts of things that I would be involved in terms of sort of getting you to really explore your leadership in the context of yourself as a potential student, but also what you can do and what you're going to need after you've finished your your studies. All of our programs, and in particular sort of the leadership development programs that we deliver and are involved in, we try and make these as practical and as experiential and as useful to you thinking about your future and where your career is actually going to go. So we're constantly scanning the environment. We're constantly working with our industrial partners and asking them questions like, well, what do you want from your graduates? Not just the specialist area that you're studying, but in terms of your own development and your own leadership and your own sort of interpersonal, some of those softer skills that the employers are actually looking for in potential sort of new recruits. So a lot of the skills-based teaching that we do are wrapped around things that employers are actually looking for in their potential employees. So one of the just to kind of give you a little sort of taster of the leadership element, as I said before, a lot of our programs, well, most of our programs are very experiential. And, whenever I'm teaching, I'm bringing an awful lot of my own experience working with a variety of sort of different levels of teams within a healthcare sector, and I'll bring my experience on high performing teams in sort of sort of dynamic leadership, sort of giving you that sort of experience that you can keep asking yourself, who are you, in terms of your own leadership journey. And that might not be about me leading a team or leading an organization. We'll always start at that first question is who am I in terms of my own leadership, in terms of me leading myself to study, to look for jobs, to interact, collaborate with others that I'm going to be working with on your journey of sort of studentship. So Coos and Posner is one of the sort of leadership theories and practices that we wrap a lot of our training around. Coos and Posner are our leadership experts and have done a lot of research over the last sort of 30 to 40 years on what actually makes a good leader. And what we do with, for example, our Master Your Leadership program is that we give you the opportunity to really explore what that actually means. So what I'm going to get you to do is we're just going to start asking you those sorts of questions. So with a short poll that we're going to apply. So 4 questions that I'm going to ask you in a second or two, and you can use the poll function to answer yes, no, or not sure. So for the first question I wanted to ask, so are some people born leaders? What do you think?
So Caroline, if you refer to your polls tab, you'll see the results.
Okay, brilliant. So we have 50% say that no, that some people that are born leaders. You don't actually agree with that statement, and actually as part of sort of leadership development, we will really get you to explore all of that and demonstrate through our experience that you can actually learn how to be an effective leader. I would agree that there are some people who maybe that's a talent, but whenever you look at research right across the board, it reassuringly, these are skills that we can actually develop in ourselves. And again, just to give you a sample of the sorts of things that we do in the graduate school, is that some of our leadership development programs will give you that experience to actually start developing those skills. As I said before, we try and make sure that the experience that you get through coming to training isn't just a passive experience. It's very dynamic, it's very interactive. You take an awful lot of responsibility of actually applying, and we support you in that, in applying what you know in theory to what you can actually do in reality. So brilliant. Next question then. Do you see yourself as a leader?
I'm really impressed by these results.
Yeah. Are we happy to end the poll? Brilliant. So I think that's amazing. I am absolutely. It's great to see yourself as a leader. It's great to see that you actually want to take responsibility just for yourself. You know that and what that actually means, and what we do in our leadership programs is that we get you then to start really exploring what that actually means. So if I say yes, I'm a leader, I'll get you to start really thinking, well, you know, what does that then look like in terms of my skills, my behaviours? Is there any areas that I need to further develop? And how do I then bring others with me? And how do I get the best out of not just myself, but those people that I actually work with and are going to be collaborating with? So that's brilliant to see. Those that aren't sure and that say no, again, our experiences are that we will bring you with us. You know, we will actually teach you that, you know, everyone is a leader in their own right. And we help build that confidence that you might have in your skills and your abilities to actually lead. And probably the easiest person to lead is yourself. So we will support you in all of that. And not just in the leadership programs, but the whole range of skills development that we offer you in the graduate school will support you on that journey. Okay, so question number 3. This is the tricky one now. Do others see you as a leader? So you might think you are one yourself, but do others agree, and do they see you as a leader? Okay, brilliant. I'm assuming then everyone has filled that in as well. Again, fantastic. You know that if you're getting feedback from others that actually agree, one of the things that we explore in some of our development programs is that you don't necessarily need to have that title of leader within your job or, you know, within the experience that you have. But it's just really exploring, you know, that in terms of that 360 feedback, you know, so I have this perception of myself, but it's always keeping on asking, you know, is that demonstrated with me receiving feedback from others, whether that be verbally, whether that be just in how people interact or work with me. And one of the things that we will provide you with some of our programs is that Coos and Posner in particular have done a lot of research on students in terms of their leadership skills and behaviours and practices. And we actually offer you, you know, sort of a comprehensive 360 feedback opportunity where you can answer, you know, so a set of questions, assess yourself against that leadership framework, and then you can actually go out and ask others to complete the same questions so that you will get quite a comprehensive report based on the leadership framework that Coos and Posner have, you know, researched and identified 5 particular leadership practices. So therefore you can then pull out a personal development plan. You can take that time to really self-assess and get feedback from others to either confirm or even challenge some of your perceptions so that ultimately you can build that into some kind of further development plan. So the last question then, you know, sort of if for those that maybe were unsure or not, do you feel you have the potential to become a leader? Brilliant. That is fantastic. And I suppose what I wanted to say, like obviously I'm going to sort of just focus on, the programs and so on that I deliver, in the graduate school, but right across my colleagues and other sort of opportunities that you will actually get through the graduate school will give you the chance of actually practicing leadership in some of the projects that we're involved in, not just within the graduate school, but actually in the wider community. So there's loads of opportunities that we actually sort of provide that you can apply some of the skills that we're talking about to real live, sort of practical projects that actually make a difference, to so the wider student community, but also in some of our partners in Belfast and some of those surrounding areas. So that's great. Thank you for participating in the little poll. Is there...
Caroline, Sarah's asked a question about Master Your Leadership. Do you cover the programme later, about where it fits and how it's recognised and that sort of thing?
Yes. My last slide is our little roadmap that Cara had mentioned earlier. And I'll take a little bit of time just to sort of demonstrate some of the, the programs that we have, but what recognition you get in actually attending those. So I'll be able to pick up any questions with that. But
I'll make sure we cover it, Sarah.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So what we can, I suppose that this is a very difficult, environment that we're working in, but to sort of really demonstrate the sort of activities that we do in the graduate school, and a lot of our programs are really not just me talking at you. This is just a little taster, but these are the program always wanting you to get fully engaged in everything and ask questions, and you'll be given lots of tasks to do, just a little bit like that poll, where actually you're involved. But ultimately, whenever we think about Coos and Posner, and in particular the leadership element of what we deliver in the graduate school, we've already recognised that you can learn leadership skills. And whenever we say leadership, that can be all about your communication, the impact that you have, so your team working, collaboration, emotional intelligence. Oh my goodness, I can give you a whole list of all the different skills and behaviours that can be wrapped around sort of developing leadership. And one of the things I wanted to just quickly do with you, just to sort of give you a sample, was this is Coos and Posner in terms of their 5 leadership practices that whenever you come on some of our programs, you can do that assessment element. And if you can, I'll just take you through some of them there, and you can read the slide. But one of the practices that they talk about is the modelling the way. And that's really all about how your values will align with your team, your group, your organisation. Like, I know whenever you are thinking about coming to Queen's, maybe subconsciously, some of you might actually do it very deliberately, but your personal values will, without you realising it, start to align to the values of Queen's University. And generally find that whenever you see an organisation that has similar values, you tend to think, yes, that I can connect with that's going to actually, sort of help me live my values. And whenever you are working in a team and you're thinking about leadership practices around modelling the way, that's all about you setting an example. You actually sort of like practicing what you preach. If I say that I have a value of respect, then I demonstrate that in how I interact with my colleagues and my fellow students. Inspiring a shared vision. This is where I want us to go. This is my strategic plan. And I then inspire people to follow. I inspire and motivate people to actually help us get through and actually achieve the vision that we have. Challenging the process. That's about, looking at your processes, looking at how you do things, and being willing to question, is that the right way? In terms of leadership, you also probably want to be encouraging people to come up with different ways of doing things. So it's about having that confidence and that ability to look at things critically and systematic, and actually thinking maybe there's a better way or an easier way to actually achieve what it is that we're trying to do. Enabling others to act, that's about your collaboration. That's about getting the best out of everyone around you and consciously making sure that you really embrace the strengths that your team members have, and then encouraging and supporting where they might actually need development. Encouraging the heart, that recognizing when good job has been done, and it doesn't always have to be a prize or winning something. It can be as simple as thank you so much, I really appreciated the help. And whenever we look at Coos and Posner and we look at the behaviours and practices that are wrapped around each of those 5 main ones, whenever we're thinking about leadership development, in really discovering the who am I and where I fit in my leadership journey, all of those, they can be in a circle, that they're all very interconnected, and you usually can't do one without the other. Now, with everything, we're always asking about, what am I good at? What maybe I'm not so good at? And using that 360 report in the Master Your Leadership program, for example, you can really do that very comprehensively. But to just give you a sample of that, if I'm going to ask you to reflect on those 5 leadership strengths, and instinctively, which 2 would you actually think that yes, I'm really good at that? So rather than doing another poll, what I thought I would get you to do is I'm going to give you, a few minutes to have a think, and then in the chat area, if you can just indicate 2 of those leadership practices that you believe you think you're very strong at. I'm going to give people another 1 minute more, and then we'll move on. Okay, thank you for you'll see my head turn because I'm reading my chat. But one of the things that we do constantly in whenever you come on our self-development programs is that, you know, it's this element of reflection, and doing little exercises like I've just asked gets you really to think about yourself, think about what do I know I'm good at, and then it's about building all on that. And another little technique that we would use quite often in sort of our training programs is I'll get you to think about what you are yourself, and then there's the value in actually asking others, do they see you being the same way, or do they have the same experience of you? And it's what you can actually learn from that. And one of the techniques that we would use is this, it's called Joe Harry Window. It's by a guy called Joseph Luft and Harry Ingham. And really, it's about opening up your perspective. It's about you actually exposing yourself to, you know, feedback, to trying new things, to just really taking some time to experience. And it's about taking that learning and moving it out of the different windows to ultimately expand that whole open area where you really want to know these things about yourself, but others then can reaffirm that and support you in that, saying, yes, that's something that yes, you're really good at, or yes, I agree that that's something that maybe you need to develop further. So we use this sort of technique of opening your perspective, but support that with reflective practice, and then obviously hopefully give you those experiences through your time in Queen's to actually really expand and learn more about yourself in that whole self-discovery element. So if I were to ask you, you know, so how do I develop as a leader? You know, these are just some things that I know in my experience in sort of managing and leading teams and supporting teams, is the first thing you need to do is be courageous. Take those first steps to really think about who you are, what you're good at, identifying those areas that maybe you're not so good at, and then really looking for opportunities where you can develop and experience some of those skills and behaviours. And ultimately, it's about bringing people with you. And really understanding the impact that you have on others to ultimately get the best out of yourself, but also get the best out of those that you're working with. And then we can help you and support you develop, you know, sort of like a skills plan or a personal development plan, particularly in leadership around those 5 practices. Now, how we do that, you know, I'll just say, you know, that you can establish, for example, your core values. We can actually get you to set your own vision. We can get you to ask yourself why. You know, what's the point? Do I need to take the risk? What support do I need? You know, do I need to, you know, sort of maybe have a mentor, go for some coaching? Do I need to have a particular training program to teach me these skills? And in terms of that whole sort of understanding yourself and having empathy and being able to understand the impact that you have on others and vice versa, you know, developing all that sort of emotional intelligence and resilience that comes with encouraging the heart. So that brings me to my last slide, which really kind of wraps around everything. Well, it's a sample of some of the things that we do in the graduate school, and we've tried to capture as much as we can in this one document, and we have it as a lovely little road. So just to sort of emulate that whole journey that you're going to come along whenever, you know, hopefully you come to Queen's to do your postgrad studies. But if we're thinking about the 5 pillars that Cara had mentioned at the very beginning, you know, around Thinker, the sort of programs that are on offer to support your development around strategic thinking. We have very particular, skills development programs, such as, the CMI Institute Strategic Project Management Program, but the Myers-Briggs type indicator, managing projects in the real world. But also we then have invited on this thought leader evenings some really high profile, local profile leaders that are, very strategically placed. Either they run their own business, or they are involved in healthcare. We have actually managed to get some of our politicians in place. We've even had guest speakers from other countries that are involved in their politics and so on. So we really try and give you that exposure to what's happening, not just in Northern Ireland and locally, but also, sort of as wide as we possibly can, for them to just share their stories, their learning, what they did, how they've moved and progressed, their own leadership and journeys, and that strategic thinking element. In terms of I'll not talk about absolutely everything. I'll give you a moment to sort of read the slide, and then between Cara and I, we can answer some questions. But if we think about Innovator, for example, that we have got opportunities in there. Someone had asked about the PhD sort of support. The Impact Journal is a way for you to actually start publishing articles, and you will be supported to do that. And we have an online journal that actually you can start publishing some of your research and writing articles for that. We have the Impact Programme, for example, that has run the previous few years, and it kind of changes from one year to the next, because this is about us, getting involved in some social innovation challenges that actually we've got some local partners where you can take your expertise and actually practice it out in the community. I'll think about Future Ready. Some of the programs in there are very deliberately about supporting you when you're coming to the end of your studies as to where you're going next. What's your career trajectory? Where do you want to be? And sort of 1 to 3 years after you've finished your studies. We provide a whole range of skills development programs in there. I'm just thinking, Cara, is there anything else, particularly that we want to mention at this point?
Maybe start some of the questions. So we can come back to Sarah's question about mastery leadership specifically and how any sort of accreditation fits in. And then we've got a question from Shauna asking about a master's leading to a PhD. Can I take that one first, and then you come into some of the programs? So Shauna, it's a really good question, because there are a lot of different ways that you could look at this. There's no one straight road. And I think this is a brilliant windy Northern Irish road. In Canada, we don't have roads that go like this. And it probably has a lot more detours along the way that we've not shown in our simplified version. But so a master's can be a fantastic building block for a PhD. And in a lot of subject areas, particularly in the arts and humanities, it is frequently a requirement in order to do a PhD, because what you're doing is you're gradually building your level of criticality and originality in your research, and you're gradually building those research skills that help you to conduct a PhD. A PhD is a very independent, very original piece of work, and you want to make sure that you're building up the skills to undertake it as you go along. In some of the science areas in particular, a PhD is not, or a master's is not always required to undertake a PhD, but what you would want to be making sure is that you're building up some experience in a research environment and some of the research skills needed to make you feel confident coming into your PhD. Now, we will, of course, support any PhD student and master's students. A researcher identity is very common, I'm finding, in master's students, and that's why we've tried to stop separating, this is training only for master's students and this is training only for PhD students. There are some times where, because of the nature of the milestones and the journeys that you're on, that we do make it separate. For example, at the moment, we're running quite a lot of training support that is aimed at master's students around supporting them in their dissertation writing, because that's a particular pressure that they are facing right now. And we would do the same with PhD students around preparing for their differentiation, for their annual program reviews, for their vivas. They're different milestones and different ways of approaching their degree and different characteristics. But by and large, you may be undertaking your master's with a view to being on a research pathway, and we want you to be able to grow that identity from your starting point on the master's degree throughout your research studies. Alternately, you may be on a master's degree with quite a high career outcome or employability focus in your mind, that you're aiming for progression in your current career, or perhaps entirely changing careers with a conversion course or something along those lines, maybe trying a whole different area of study. So we try to offer a range of offerings that meets what you're after in the end, and we'd be very happy to talk to you about those building blocks and how it might fit into your particular journey. So I'll pass it on to Caroline for some of the specifics. Just any other questions I'm picking up here. PGT and PGR, thank you, Rohit, for picking up on my use of acronyms. Post-research student is PGR, so that is usually someone who's undertaking studies towards a PhD. It might also be a taught doctoral program, like a doctorate in education, or it's doctoral level studies is what I would mean by that. Although students on a master's in philosophy would often also be considered PGR students. They're on a pure research degree. PGT is a more taught-based approach. So it's if you're on a master's course that is primarily taught, and as I said, some doctoral programs also have a high teaching component to them as well. Caroline, you go ahead and I'll look at Shauna's next question.
Yeah, no worries. So whenever a lot of our programs are have been awarded with it's like a Queen's Graduate Plus or Researcher Plus award, so that whenever if I use Master Leadership for the sake of an example, because you participate in this 4-day program, we have an employer who comes in and actually sets a challenge, and we use that program to very practically demonstrate leadership skills and behaviours by you working collaboratively with a team within that cohort to come up with some sort of recommendations or solutions to the challenge that the employer has actually set. They then come back on day 4 and hear what it is that you've actually researched for them. Our employers are always kind of coming back on a year-to-year basis, because you solve so many problems for these guys that they just don't have the time or the resource to do that. So because it's quite a comprehensive program, and there is additional activities and time that you invest in that outside of the training hours, we award you with a Graduate Plus certificate that you actually get at the end of your master's program, for example, that demonstrates that you have taken on additional learning and development opportunity outside of your postgrad program, just to basically give you that extra accreditation for those other employability skills that you can then take that whenever you're building your CV or you're presenting yourself at interview. You can demonstrate all this extra that you've done in addition to your specialty subject and degree. So does that explain? Does that cover that for you? Quite a number of our programs, not all of them, but quite a lot of our programs are through that extra accreditation, so you get value in actually attending them. Can I just pick up Shauna's? At the minute, Shauna, because of the pandemic and so on, we've actually, because we are delivering online, we've actually been able to be a wee bit more flexible in terms of our timing and so on. So, absolutely, whether you're part-time, full-time, the opportunities are all there, and we are mindful of that. And there are some programs that actually are sort of early evening, not all of them. But again, we're developing ourselves in knowing that there's a need there. And I think the advantage, that we've worked out from being locked down at home, is that it has really forced us into this digital environment. And most of our programs now have a digital version. So I would envisage us going forward that we'll have more sort of outside of the normal working day opportunities for part-time students to avail of.
We're also increasingly working with the part-time courses to fit it into how your schedule's being delivered. So just let us know where you're at and we can contact them and work out a way to do it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think we're doing okay. Oh, Rohit, you're asking about additional fees for the Graduate Plus. The only thing in the graduate school that we deliver that incurs an additional charge is the Chartered Management Institute program. And that is because it has an external accreditation and an external membership benefit. You get an associate membership of the Chartered Management Institute if you join the CMI program. The cost is £995 per student, then you get 2 units with that, unless it's built into your program. We are increasingly building it into both PhD and master's programs. For example, at the moment, Global Public Policy and Industrial Pharmaceutics. There are 2 programs that have a master's level that have the CMI built into the fees. So that is the only thing. So no, Graduate Plus is built into your experience, Rohit. There's no additional cost. And all of this training and development is part of the package. This is the value we are adding to your study time. You're getting the expertise in the subject area, and you are getting access to a range of training and development that would cost thousands of pounds if you signed up to it outside of a university course. So we hope that you can start to see where you might fit into this and how this might be helping you.
Yeah, just to pick up on Kieran's question there, whenever you start in September, or whether it be January, depending on when your intake is, you can just, we run these programs on a regular basis, and you can either book on through an application process once you're actually a student, or else you can use, we have what's called a My Future app that once you become a student, you have access to book on to some of the workshops and programs. I'm just looking down there to see if there was anything else.
Covered everything, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to give sort of maybe 1 more minute or so for questions. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for participating and listening. Staying and listening to us, and in terms of the engagement throughout the very short workshop. But I'll give 1 more minute for any more questions, and then other than that, Cara and I'll sign off and wish you all the best and let you go have a break before your next one.
These are all excellent questions. I like that you're also asking about part-time jobs, Rohit, because it's another great way to build your skills while you're a student, as well as giving you the financial benefits. We employ a group of students as community assistants. We would normally advertise towards the start of the year for the year group, and they would undertake a range of activities within the graduate school, including leading a lot of our community programs. So a lot of the community events that we deliver are inception and delivered and thought of by our postgraduate students. And often we come across things that has started as a postgraduate led initiative. So there's a fund of money that any postgraduate student can apply to for up to £400 to put on a particular event or activity that you think will benefit the postgraduate community. We've had things like meditation, different well-being initiatives. We've had rambles, we've had Lego creativity workshops, all sorts of things that people think will be of value to other postgraduate students. And where that works particularly well, we will often build that into our program going forward and try to give it a sustainable basis. Partnership is such a brilliant element of working with postgraduate students, where very much you have an experience of education already and are in a position to be quite an active partner with us in developing what is best for postgraduate students. And that's really important value to us in the graduate school, that you see yourself as our partner and we're working together. So there are some formal paid roles. There are some opportunities for you to get involved in leadership in the postgraduate community, even if it's not in a formal paid role. And we are continually working with other parts of the university and outside of the university, particularly in the entrepreneurial space. There's increasing opportunities around supporting proof of concept development, around students as entrepreneurs and putting them into that space. Things that are coming up all the time. The co-founders program through Catalyst. It's a science park that runs a program about connecting students and people with great ideas and great skills and knowledge to people who have ideas that they want to develop, and trying to create something new out of that and to innovate. So we also have an on-campus jobs service through the Careers, Employability and Skills service, which is for all students, postgraduate and undergraduate. And they have a range of opportunities available through the university that you can apply to with the CV and that sort of thing. So that's how we would recruit our community assistants, is through the on-campus jobs. Schools will also recruit some, especially PhD students for graduate teaching positions. Those usually come out in sort of October at the start of the year. Great question, Irish. The Language Centre at Queen's is based in the library, and they actually, when lockdown happened, offered all of their language courses for free to anyone who wanted to take them. We also, in the graduate school, we love languages and learning about different cultures and languages. So had some of our PhD students engaged to provide language courses for staff. So Caroline and I were doing Italian for a little while to try to learn a new skill and a new approach based on one of our PhD students being paid to give us some lessons. So language learning is something we very much like to develop. We love cultural celebrations. We would love for you to come in and to start a celebration of your culture and to share it with each other. One of the events that we like to do some point in the year, and we'll have to see how things go as to when we can do it, is called A Taste of Belfast, where we like to share everything that's unique, wonderful, strange about Northern Irish culture. I am not from Northern Ireland myself. Brown lemonade is something that I've now been introduced to. I'm not sure I'm grateful for that introduction. It's a very strange thing, but it's a lot of fun. We've celebrated Omani culture. We've celebrated Jordanian culture. We love celebrating different cultures and events. So please do bring what you have to that's a great postgraduate-led initiative right there, would be sharing your language and culture with another group of students, and hopefully with us in the graduate school as well, especially the food. We love trying the food.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Unless there's any more questions, I think that's our time up, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you in the new year, and whether it be through a camera or face to face, that's or face to face. That's we're kind of just going with it and seeing what happens.